Hi, I'm Denise Kawaii from KawaiiTimes.com. I'm here with Jen and our friend Amy. Welcome to Skirts and Words, where we talk about books and being women who like books. We have been reading, all of us, in a combined effort, Cringeworthy by Melissa Dahl. And so we're going to talk about being awkward. So welcome to our show.
Thank you.
This is our third episode. It is still awkward. So, perfect timing.
Yay! Well, I very much wanted Melissa Dahl to be my best friend. I want to stalk her on Twitter and make her come and hang out here. So maybe she'll be...
I haven't started stalking her yet, but it's coming.
Is it?
Yeah.
Fair warning. I feel like we would be good friends. Kind of like when you, I don't know, when you meet someone for the first time and you're just like, yeah, it's going to happen. Actually, with both of you, too, I felt that way. Because, like, we had the combined childhood of very, very, very small towns.
Mm-hmm.
And those families.
And the same best friend.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I just knew right away, like, yeah, we're going to be friends. And then with you, too, especially after I finally read your... I don't know why I waited so long to read Woman with a Thousand Hats. And I'm like, oh, she gets it. I get it. She gets it. We get it. It's a thing.
Well, speaking of being awkward, so I'm an independent author, and I hate reading indie books.
Yeah.
Like, it takes me, it's not that I hate reading them. I've found several that I really love, but for some reason, it takes me an immense amount of time to, like, convince myself
That's
to
how
read
I was,
them.
too. I'm like, I've got other stuff.
Yeah, but then I get into them, and so anyway, that's life of an author.
Well, if you haven't read it, read Woman with a Thousand Hats.
Hey, thanks.
It's very good. But back to the book at hand. So, show of hands, who was awkward in high school? Yeah. What I really liked was right off the bat in this book, she talks about how she's going through and reading her teen diaries on stage in New York.
Which I think is amazing.
And I kind of want to do it, but kind of don't. But I kind of do. But I kind of don't. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But because I've looked back at some of my journals, and I think that's something to do with people that are very empathetic and people that think that they're really awkward, and maybe people that are shy and stuff. Is we're journalers. You were a journaler, weren't you?
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
15 books.
Yeah, and you were a journaler.
No.
No, really?
No. I write books. So, like, I wrote my first book at 12, which was an advice book for all of the adults in my life, because I thought... So it's not really...
It's journal-esque.
But, yeah.
But
I didn't keep any of that. So, although I would love to participate, I would just have to watch.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that stuff anymore.
I have some super embarrassing things. I was so full of righteous indignation that I didn't earn by being a white girl in a small town. Like, I really shouldn't have been so angry. There wasn't a lot to be angry about. But it is super embarrassing, and I do run a business in said small town, so I really can't read a lot of it because I see some of those people every day still. But I really admired that she went out there and read pieces, because it's like exposing your heart on stage, but not even the heart that you want people to see. It's the one that you're like, die.
Yeah.
You're so
well, and I
embarrassing.
loved that she included, like, she's auditioning for this show where you read your journal, and, like, she was sweating through her shirt and just, like, super, super nervous reading in front of 3 people. And, like, how is she actually going to read it up on stage? And she kind of goes back to that process throughout the book, and that's fun to follow along with.
It is, yeah. The thing that really struck me the most that I kept coming back to over and over is where she quotes a doctor's research. I can't remember the doctor's name, but where she says, social anxiety is the illness of missed opportunities. And when I look back specifically at my high school days, nobody hated me. I don't know why I thought everyone hated me, but I wanted to run for offices, and I wanted to be a cheerleader for some reason, and I wanted to do all these things, and I was like, oh, no, I can't. I'm not that person. I can't do that. And those are missed opportunities. I could have had a lot of fun. There was people I wanted to be friends with that I thought, oh, no, they would never be friends with me. And then I've seen them lately, and, you know, they were like, oh, you were so quiet in high school. You never talked to anybody. I'm like, but you hated me. I'm like, no, nobody hated you. So it is. It's the illness of missed opportunities. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one really spoke to me. And then the other thing that I wrote down that I liked, she said, if you can't laugh at awkwardness, you are missing out on some of the best anecdotes of your autobiography. How awkward. No. You are missing out on some of the best anecdotes of your autobiography. And I definitely can agree. If I were to write my life story, if I didn't include those super embarrassing things that I did, you wouldn't have seen how far I've come as an adult and as a human.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll lay down one on you, just so you know, just so we all feel comfortable. I didn't have any males interested in me in middle school. In fact, I think I repelled them, and also in early high school. And so there was KLYK was the station here, like the cool station, and you could call in requests on Friday nights. So I would call in requests to myself because I was sad and lonely. And so I would just make up fake names, like to Jennifer from Aaron, or to Jennifer from Seth. You're so cute, or something like that. So there you go. I hope we all feel comfortable now in my shame. But I think everybody does stupid stuff like that.
Yeah, everybody does.
But I don't think as many people admit to it on camera.
Well, it's, burden of being famous. You just have to put yourself out there.
It's true.
Yeah.
So I went.
Yeah, me. There's so much to choose from. So I was actually, when I was reading through this, one of the things that I kind of was thinking about is, when did I go from being almost paralyzed by my awkwardness to being able to still be paralyzed but move a little bit? And for me, it was when I went to Washington, D.C. in my junior year of high school. And I went by myself. And it was a leadership conference with a whole bunch of really got-it-together kids from all over the U.S., a bunch of California kids, of course, which are well-dressed. They organized us alphabetically, so both my roommates were Amy's. They were both from the East Coast. They both knew how to pluck their eyebrows. They both had boyfriends. And they both were just, totally all together. And so I'm there. I don't make any friends because I put myself out there. You had to do an alliteration to introduce yourself. Well, I picked apathetic Amy.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I love you.
I just wasn't making any friends, because I just really wasn't willing to be out there as anybody. I was just trying to make this, cocoon of myself. So we go to the mall on Washington, and I'm just this complete hick from East Louis County that doesn't know how to be in a city, and I've got this pocket full of change because I just have been, buying mugs and stuff, and there's these people panhandling, and I'm like, I've got change, I'll just give them some. So I gave this guy like a handful, like $5 worth of quarters and stuff, and then I was like, whoa, that was kind of weird, I didn't feel real good about it because it just was, it was a guy on the Mall of Washington. Panhandling there is like a high deal gig. So I'm walking across over to the Museum of Natural History, and there's another like table full of things, and somebody approaches me and asks me if I want a sticker. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want a sticker. He'd already handed it to me, so I handed it back. And I walk over to walk into the museum, and I'm kind of feeling a little bit kind of off, and this mounted policeman rides up to me, and I love horses, so I'm like, yay, a horse, and the horse is completely ignoring me. It's like, stone horse, and the policeman starts
lady.
The policeman starts questioning me about what I had just happened, and I'm just like almost like dying because I have no idea what's happening. He was questioning me and asking me if I was soliciting. And then when I went and told the story later, I didn't know that soliciting could mean prostitution, so I told the story, and everybody just starts laughing, and I was just... And I think that was kind of a moment of easing, though, too, because then I was like, okay, I can own this story. This is kind of funny. I was asked by a policeman on the Mall of Washington if I was soliciting. So, I can kind of find that funny, considering that I'm one of the most uptight girls I know. So
I like it.
Yeah, so that's my very long-winded, but... we're on awkwardness. So.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So you're able to own it, turn it around, make the story yours.
Yeah. And it took me about 20 minutes before my heart rate got back to normal. So I did survive.
Good.
And it's those things that, you eventually do survive. And I that's what I took out of this is if you push yourself through them, you start getting a resistance to them. And you get a little better and we probably have all developed coping mechanisms too.
Yeah. Well,
so,
and I loved. So towards the end of the book, she's worried that like she can't get the awkward feeling anymore, and so she like really pushes the boundaries.
I couldn't even. Yeah, I had a hard time reading that actually. What is she? There was a lady.
She went
under
to
a tree.
a professional cuddler.
That's right. Yes. Yes, that was difficult to read.
I was like, I don't know where this is going.
It's kind of one where like you want to read it like.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just wondered, why would she put herself through that? Because I'm okay with being awkward now, but I also recognize kind of where my boundaries are at, and I was like, why would she do that? That sounds so awful. I don't understand the cuddling thing though, so.
As an author, I imagine that she was down the research rabbit hole. I know weird things about all kinds of weird things because you just.
Have you ever gone cuddling?
I have never gone cuddling, but I, like in Curie that I'm writing right now, I needed to know about people who has survived, spoiler, nuclear fallout. And so I ended up, what was going to be I'm going to read for 3 days about Chernobyl, ended up being a 6-month, I read about so much stuff. And so I imagine that she was just writing this book, and she's like, I just need to keep pushing and pushing, and then it just seemed like it got too far.
Yeah. I don't know though, if I could think of something that like would push me too far, it would probably be something similar to that.
Yeah.
Improv was too far for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I
feel like I want to do improv now.
I know. It was kind of life changing. Well, there's a lot of this is my year of yeses and nos, because I'm saying yes to things that I would normally say no to, and I'm saying no to things I would normally say yes to. And so reading this book was the perfect thing for me, because she was like, no, I could never do that, and then she did, and then by the end, she's like, there's nothing I can't do. And so I've been trying to do things that I would normally not ever do. Like I did an obstacle course race last week, and it was so fun. And normally I would have hated that, but it was fun. So I think pushing yourself helps you not get complacent in life, maybe. I don't know. And I'm not advocating that we all go cuddling with strangers. I'm just putting out there that I don't know, especially as a writer, I think it's good to just see what your max is and then write about it, because I think other people can relate to that.
Yeah, and those uncomfortable feelings are so universally felt that if you can incorporate them into any story, then it's a great way to connect with your readers as they cringe that are reading.
Maybe they ought to be universally felt.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that won't relate, because I see them in my daily life.
Yeah.
They're just doing things, we're cringing for them, and they continue doing them.
Yeah. There are those people, but I don't think there's as many of them. I think most people are self-conscious and afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing, and they should all read this book.
Yes. One of the things that I really liked that I think you could take further into research is how English speakers, a 4-second pause is like the threshold of awkward, and then in Japanese it's 8.2 seconds. And I want to know what that is. Why is Japanese culture more? Do they embrace the silences more? Is that better? Is it worse? I don't know. I really thought that was interesting. I thought a lot about that, because I know I am awful if there's any kind of silence. I feel like I must fill it, even if it's with something stupid.
I think it's really cultural, because I work for a tribe, and talking to different people in different cultures, and even tribes have different cultures, even if they're Pacific Northwest tribes, there's a lot more spaces and gaps. And even I had an English teacher in school who would leave like at least 5 seconds in between each word sometimes. It was so painful.
I can't handle it.
But, yeah. It must be the Japanese is just that's the comfortable space. Like the sitting away, this is a comfortable space to be sitting away from you.
Yeah.
If you had these chairs comfortable, I think it's a verbal space thing.
I can
That's
see
my
that.
take on it.
I like it.
I've learned to get more comfortable with longer spaces because of those. Are they going to say anything?
Should I say something?
if I jump into this, is this going to be worse?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think like generationally and culturally, and my words are not working right now, but there seems to be more acceptance to like choose your words, take the time to figure out what you're going to say before you blurt it out. And it seems like, especially young Americans, everything is so instant all the time. They think that they need to be like have an answer immediately, and
Or they're doing this and they didn't even hear what you said.
right. I do that to my son.
I know, I do too. Oh, I just did it yesterday. I know. It's bad. Being a parent is hard.
It is. But, you know, I think, like, especially watching, so my son, who is 6, and then my father-in-law, who is not 6, having a conversation. And my father-in-law has those really long pauses. And my son is like, can I answer?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask the next question? Are we done talking? And I think that may play into the pause.
Could be. It's a wisdom thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not wise at all. I don't know. I don't like the gaps. I had another thought, but I feel like the people that were most awkward growing up are the people that I tend to gravitate towards now. And even then, actually, just because, you know, you find another kindred spirit. But I feel like it has something to do with gaining self-awareness a lot earlier than other people, and then not knowing how to process that self-awareness.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's necessarily intelligence or just social intelligence or what, but I don't know. I remember thinking that I'm thinking so much more than these other people, and that's why I'm driving myself crazy, because these people are just able to go to Skate World and enjoy their time skating, where I'm like, what do I do with my hands, and what do I do with this, and how long do I look at someone, and where do I look, and what do I do? And so I don't know if that means, I mean, I'd love it to mean like you're smarter and better than everyone. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I don't know. I do tend to gravitate toward those people, especially if they're able to be really honest with the things that they went through, because it makes them kind and it makes them empathetic. And I don't know where I'm going with that. I like
Well, and I agree with that. So we have my husband and I have an ongoing conversation about how we really want real people in our lives who aren't playing some part. You know, they're not trying to be cool hipster or whatever. And as people enter and exit our lives, we're constantly having this conversation. And I think that's why I like really socially awkward people, because they're so, like you said, so aware of everything they're doing. It makes hanging out with them actually more interesting than the cool guy who's just leaning on the bookcase and looking awesome. I'd rather hang out with the super awkward girl who's juggling 20 books and can't find her keys, because I can never find my keys.
I don't know where they are. I have to shake. I hold my purse up to my ear and I'm like, oh, there they. Yep, they're there.
I've had to put mine into a special pocket, because then I can find them every time.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet.
Because I get tired, because they're always at the very bottom of my purse.
Yeah, I know.
Underneath everything, both my checkbooks. Apparently people don't have checks anymore.
I have 2 checkbooks,
I do
and
too.
I love them because it makes me feel like my money's lasting longer and I'm in control of it. And then also one day I'm going to be able to pay for something and they're going to like lose the check or forget about it and I'm going to get it for free. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. I'm very excited for that day.
You're probably right.
I love checks.
I had this great group of friends, and you know Z, and in high school, and that was the advantage of going to a small school for me, was there was a bunch of socially awkward people that I could gravitate to, and I haven't found that as much in my real life, but I think that's partially because I work in natural resources, and everyone kind of is there because they're antisocial, so that means they're antisocial.
Right.
But I have seen my friends from high school who were awkward like me be very successful in life. And I think you're right. I think it had a lot to do with their ability to read other people and to really be, even though it's a curse a lot of times, to be hyper aware of other people, to be able to read that somebody else is uncomfortable and be able to stop doing whatever it is you're doing that's making them uncomfortable, or to try different tactics to see what it is that's making them uncomfortable.
Right.
And I am so aware of it that sometimes I'll leave meetings and I'll just be like, oh, I didn't nail that. And the meeting will have gone fine, but, and I'm kind of low level compared to, I was voted, though, most likely to make $1 million. So.
Really?
Yeah.
I was voted messiest girl.
No one voted for me.
Aww.
There were only 62 kids in my class, and something like 60 different things you could be voted for. So
yeah, when I went to high school, I started in in-home school, and then family circumstances changed, and so I went into public school in the 5th grade, and so already, I was at a disadvantage. Everybody knew everybody, and I was the odd kid out. And then my sophomore year, then I transferred from a more blue-collar district to everybody got a BMW for their 16th birthday district. I was driving around in a 91 Geo Metro.
Ooh.
So
you would have been rich at my school.
I
know.
Well, I mean,
did it have all the doors?
it's all relative. But so I don't remember anyone I went to school with. Very few. There's like 3 people who have found me on Facebook, and I'm like, I kind of think your name is familiar, and then they'll tell me, like, we had math class in 3rd grade or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then we can reconnect. But I'm horrible. I don't remember most anything from high school because I didn't go very often. I went often enough to pass, but so speaking of being awkward, so there was a period my senior year where I was working 3 part-time jobs because when you're a child you can't work full-time, and so I got around that by having 3 jobs. And so I missed like a lot of school, and when I would go I couldn't remember my locker number or the order of the classes I had, and so I would go into the office and they would print me like
Those are like nightmares I used to have.
all the information so I could go to class. So that was like my awkward thing, is like showing up, and the office people all knew me because they were like, oh, nice of you to join us. Here's your locker number where your books are stored. And I would have to go through that periodically. So, but I did. I lived in Hawaii for a while, and this guy came up to me at the grocery store, and he was one of the star athletes at my high school, who was a person who I thought would never like give me the time of day. I pretty much hated him in high school because he was super popular and I was me. And he's like, I had such a crush on you. And so that was interesting. I was like, oh, kind of like you, like, oh, people actually knew I existed.
Yeah, I know.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Huh. I know. It's hard. High school's hard.
I think it's hard for everybody.
I was more like she was, like a stringent rule follower, and I don't know, I felt comfortable with the adults in high school. I felt like we had this rapport, like we were friends, and everybody else was like, oh, those kids, they're so crazy. I was such a huge dork.
Yeah.
Real big. Yeah. Were you a big rule follower?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm picturing the pants that I used to wear. You know, the ones that came all the way up to
All
your
the way.
natural waist, which on me is like touching my rib cage.
Yeah.
Well, it probably is for everybody, but I used to get teased mercilessly by a classmate
Aww.
about how high my pants were, and they did look really bad.
They're coming back, though.
They're not coming back for me.
That's how I feel about overalls. So I I had my senior pictures taken in overalls because that is classy,
Right?
and I
They
had
can
to,
be cute.
maybe they were, I don't know. I had to space out, like, I wore these Monday, you cannot wear these Tuesday, you need to stop. You can wear them Wednesday, and now I see they're coming back, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. I don't know if I can pull it off at 36 the way I could at like 17. know if I'm willing to try. I don't know if people are going to be like, I'm embarrassed for you.
I couldn't pull it off at 17, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I had corduroy ones.
I did have corduroy
I had
pants.
pink checked ones. It was all happening.
Well, and I think it's really weird. So my husband and I are geeky, nerdy people, and like geek culture is super big, at least in the Pacific Northwest, Portland and Seattle. And that's like a celebration of being the weird, kooky person.
I love it. And I'm all about that.
It is really cool because I am one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I don't understand how it's become a thing. Like everybody wants to look like they live in their mom's basement. And I don't understand why that's hip. But lucky for us, we live with my father-in-law. So we're there.
Yeah.
We're there.
I love that, well, probably because it's a bookstore and it's where nerds probably gravitate to, but I love that younger kids and stuff will come in and talk books with me, whereas there's like a gap where, I don't know, teenagers aren't as into it, but the younger kids will, and they will just unabashedly talk to me about Harry Potter, and I can unabashedly talk back like, so I'm a Hufflepuff, and these are the things that I am about a Hufflepuff, but I kind of feel like I'm Gryffindor a little bit, and then they're just like, tell me more. So I just feel like I'm at home.
That's awesome.
You're living the dream.
I am. I'm living the nerd dream.
I just want to come sometime, and I don't know when I'll ever have time for this, but I just want to come and like peruse your shelves, because between the mix of used and new,
Mm-hmm.
that I can see from here some of my books that I've read, that not my books, but books that I've read that are mine because I have read them, and therefore I own them in my head, right?
And then you get to talk about them.
Uh-huh.
I know. It's pretty much the best.
Yeah.
Like this, I've sold so many of this just because when people come in and they're like, oh, what are you reading? I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't even know. You have to read this book right now.
I've gotten some laughs out of my kids by saying, I'm going to be doing a thing on awkwardness, and they're like, oh, that works for you.
That makes sense.
I'm like, the oldest one's 15. He should be in the middle of his awkwardest stage, right? And yet I'm still the awkward one. But I am.
I feel like girls, particularly since the advent of YouTube, are not going through a proper awkward phase.
Right.
I mean,
They
some
have
of them
help.
are with like going overboard with the makeup and the eyebrows. There's some things happening with eyebrows right now that I'm not a fan of. But I was hideous, a hot mess. Like, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't have YouTube to tell me anything. And I don't know, I feel like these girls, they dress better than I do now. They understand makeup better than I do now. I've had 2 professional people put makeup on me, and I still don't understand how to do it. So I don't
I
think
feel
they're...
pretty good because I figured out how to do mascara without it sticking in clumps. Although they may still be clumped, so
That's
no promises.
fantastic. I know. It only took how many years? A couple.
I don't want to admit
Yeah.
it.
No, I just some of the girls that come in here, I'm like, why do you look like that? Why are you so pretty? You should stop.
I was taking photos of interns one year,
Mhm.
and this was 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm just taking pictures, right? I'm just for their employee ID, and they're looking at the camera, and they know how to pose. They know how to get their
Yeah.
angles right, so they have these super cute pictures taken of them, and I just look straight at the camera and go,
I know.
so I'm like, and these were kids that I would have felt like identified with. They weren't polished
Mhm.
teen girls or late teen girls. They were normal kids, yet they knew how to pose and look, good.
I think everybody should go through an awkward stage because it just makes you so much more understanding and kind. Like, some of the people I know that were just very pretty all the time and everything just happened for them and everything just fell in their lap. Like, adulthood was a big shock for them, and they didn't succeed necessarily in they had a very delayed adulthood because they lived in the bubble,
Mhm.
and
That was the one thing that I really think, image-wise, in this book, there was the discussion of the gap, the difference between what you envision as yourself and
Mhm.
what the world sees you as.
Mhm.
Right.
And as I was reading through it, I mean, one of the things that I won't let my phone do is put it on, portrait mode or whatever that makes your skin look good,
Mhm.
because I want to know if my skin looks like,
Mhm.
Right.
because
right.
I want to know what I actually am, not, some sanitized version of myself.
Yeah.
And I really do feel that that's the thing that's being lost right now is they're not having an awkward stage, so they're not getting that sense of themselves as a mortal, and unappealing thing. And I read this article in the last week because I'm a total sucker for the little ridiculous articles on MSN or whatever. They're
I know, I love those too.
7 things to make your relationship better, or do this one thing and your relationship will fall apart, or work, or whatever.
I did used to write those.
But well, maybe I read one of yours. It was, if you talk about poop with your partner, you're more likely to be, a successful couple. But it ties in with that because
I've got that
18 years.
But I thought, because that's the reality of, your partner, especially when you live with them or you're married or whatever, you have to recognize that they're a human being, and if they're having to hide it from you, they're trying to create and keep an image from you.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
So, and sometimes I look at pictures of myself on vacation, I'm like, oh, I look like I'm 20 pounds heavier than I think I am, and I felt so sexy in that photo. And it's just, I think it's really good to have that vision of yourself that isn't what you expect, because it reminds you. It re-humiliates you.
Freudian slip.
It does re-humiliate you sometimes. But it increases that a level of humility, because to me that's really what the cringeworthy thing is about. It's about having humility as a human that has failures. And I mean, the thing that I didn't get out of this that I was hoping I would was how to avoid being awkward in the future, because it's just not something that I can do. There's some things that I will always do awkwardly.
I don't think you need to not be awkward.
No, but there's some things I'd really like to improve.
Well,
but I mean, who wouldn't? So just own it.
Own it.
Yeah, own
Do
it.
All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of our time.
I think so.
That happened really quickly.
It did.
All right. Well, thank you, Amy. That was fabulous.
Thank you for allowing me to be awkward.
Yes, absolutely. We love
in public.
you. Yes, we love you. Join us next time for our next installment, which will be a surprise to all of us. So
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.